Hey, it's the Oni Gino, and this is Talk Now, Think Later. Let's look at the freaking news. Yeah, I'm early today because things have been happening. Things have been happening on Steam and on itch.io, and this is pretty big for anyone's concept of a free internet and the idea of who regulates what we see and what we consume on the internet. Who should be that body? Who polices the kind of morality or violations to it that we see on this space? So yeah, from the lovely videogameschronicle.com, itch.io has hidden its entire NSFW games library as payment providers pressure stores. So the company says it's working rapidly to resolve the issue. So one thing I'm going to say about this entire, segment is that it's going to be really tricky talking about all of this because the veil of speaking about freedom or freedom of speech around the idea of not safe for work content, I think automatically just steers towards the idea that if you're you might be promoting this type of content and it's a violation of this, and then it's usually like the defenders of that freedom is associated with the bad stuff, right? Like the types of tendencies that people have because they go into those types of content. But remember, those types of content are not just for the horns, if I might say it in a more vague way, because I don't want to be flagged by YouTube or any other service provider, but I want to talk about it, right? So here we go. Let's read a little bit more of this here. So in the digital game store, itch.io has de-indexed its entire NSFW not safe for work games library from its store. This comes as payment providers have begun scrutinizing NSFW content on platforms such as Steam. While the extent of the changes to the platform isn't currently known, a statement confirms that itch.io is working rapidly to change the way it platforms explicit content. So, this comes less than a week after Steam introduced a new set of guidelines banning previously permitted explicit content from its platform. This has been years of them, opening the floodgates for anyone who wants to publish anything on that platform. The issue began earlier this year when a game titled No Mercy, which promised players they could become every woman's worst nightmare and featured content including sexual violence and incest, was briefly published on Steam and itch.io. The game was widely condemned, with many calling for its removal from these platforms, as it should be. Itch.io banned the title, however, it remained on Steam. The game's developer, Zerat Games, defended No Mercy in a widely mocked open letter, writing, "People created videos and spoke with great conviction about things that weren't in the game," the developers wrote. Better yet, do some work yourself instead of blindly chasing views. The letter concluded that Zerat Games announcing it was pulling the game from digital platforms. This came as Steam was being roundly lobbied by industry bodies to step in and remove the title. Now, itch.io has stated that due to pressure from the group Collective Shout, and we'll talk about them a little later, which issued an open letter to payment processors demanding that they cease supporting online platforms that host explicit games, they have removed all adult games from their search and browse features while determining the next steps. In a statement, itch.io said this is a time-critical moment for the platform. The company also apologized for not being able to warn NSFW game developers of the changes saying that this was not realistic to provide advanced warning. We are currently conducting a comprehensive audit of content to ensure we can meet the requirements of our payment processors. Pages will remain de-indexed as we complete our review. Once this review is complete, we will introduce new compliance measures. So for NSFW pages, this will include a new step where creators must confirm that their content is allowable under the policies of the respective payment processors linked to their account. So the company has also confirmed that an unknown number of games will be removed from the platform as part of these sweeping changes. Yeah, there's a lot of questions here, right? Like, there's just, you know, what constitutes an adult game? Is it just your horn games, your Gooner games, or are 18 games with adult themes and, you know, value giving storylines and, you know, kinds of messages to society, you know, games that talk about like the real big issues that are not linked to any kind of lust or gooning, you know, agendas. Are they part of that you know, sweeping ban? How would you know if it's a part of the sweeping ban? Okay, so maybe a lot of the people are happy about that are supporting, you know, this move, but how are all the consumers that have bought, you know, the products from itch.io? How are they gonna, like, is it gonna be another discussion about like ownership and, you know, when do we own something? When can, you know, how do we access something that we own but, you know, servers are down for it, or it's wiped out of the internet for it's a lot. It's a lot. And also the businesses. I forget, you know, the businesses where they were barely given like a freaking day for this. They couldn't even strategize something to mitigate, you know, the possible backlash of their own fans and their own consumer base on why their game isn't found on itch.io or on Steam, you know, or how people can access them. And it doesn't look too bad on itch.io. It doesn't look too bad on Steam, but it does though. But it's gonna look bad for the development team, right? And you know, these developers are the ones just trying to make a living out of this. This is their work. This is their craft. You know, things like that. And again, for a second here, let's remember that the definition right now is not safe for work, but does that mean that the definition is, if it's not something safe for work, that it's also I guess how would you say, destructive to, you know, an individual, destructive to society, destructive to moral values, you know, like is it something that is purposefully, you know, destroying you know, principles of society that makes us peaceful and, you know, I guess respectful and all of that stuff, right? Because right now it's just a sweeping, okay, if it has an NSFW tag, then take it out of the system and you ain't earning no more because you have the 4 letters that should not be named. Anyway, we should really talk about the group behind this first. Collective Shout. On the surface level, I did a little bit of my research here, and on a surface level, I agree with Collective Shout, right? Because they're a group of people that are anti-objectification of women and also protecting the safety of children. And that's really something that we need right now, and I completely agree with. If we only put ourselves in that, you know, idea that that's the only, like, that's basically their only agenda. But evidence shows that this is kind of just a possible front, or this is this is how they would use like big sweeping ideas of goodness and protection and safety to push more I guess self-serving beliefs and ideologies for that particular group. Because if it's about like protection, if it's about respect for women, right? Then we would not find any evidence of them being anti-LGBTQ, anti-choice, right? Like, even like the content censorship idea of like, how what types of things people believe in, or you know, it's supposed to be more of a dialogue rather than a commandment, an order, right? And you can look at this on the internet. I'm very much, I know this exists, and I encourage everyone to look into it. Collective Shout, they have been starting to remove a lot of their posts on Twitter and on different platforms that have been now scrutinized by the general public that are very I guess hypocritical. Is that how you say it? Anyway, yeah, like posts like anti-LGBTQ, anti-vax, propaganda, anti-pharma propagandas and stuff like that. So it's difficult, especially when they are pushing forward an idea that has not fully been studied by expert bodies and institutions. Like scientifically studied that these types of movements, these topics, the ways, like let's go to the horn games, right? Like those horn games that like produce like very sexual content, actually end up in being a bane to society, because it really shapes the way the children think, men think about women in society, etc., and how it really how we can really measure the effect on it. Because I'm all for the protection of every individual, and not giving power to any one type of group, right? But here's kind of the problem with all of this like hypocrisy that people are saying. This group essentially bypassed the protocols and regulations of how they can protest or have a voice on this particular subject matter, because we all know that the government is also not as how would you say it reliable and urgent in some matters. Right? Like because I don't know, we're talking more about like I anyway, I'm not even gonna like say anything about that, but yeah, it's the urgency and the reliability is not really there. So they figured out something that is really, really effective, but also kind of questionable in terms of how fair is this for all the bodies in this friction. Because like in society, we need the friction to really understand what everybody needs. You keep fighting for what you believe in, the other side should be fighting for what they believe in, but hopefully it's not fighting causing war and the lives of others. It's like it's continuous friction with how we talk, right? We're humans, we talk. It's information, it's understanding each other. But of course that's not the that's not the thing you do when you are number one in government, number two in big corporations, right? And maybe also number three, if you have created a group and you have felt the power of the having followers in that group. So yeah, I mean, who do you go to at this point? You go to the people who can process the payments. So the Collective Shout has directly sent an open letter to Visa and MasterCard. And it's like even the idea of just banning content like this, right? Like, and it's just video games, by the way. And you think about a lot of this stuff, right? Like you start with video games, right? But then, should we ban books? Should we ban other types of media like music, rap music, ballad music? I don't know, like super sexy innuendo type of music. Yeah, stuff like that. And also you ask yourself, is it really fixing the problem? Like, is banning the fix? Or is society just trying to circumvent the banning? You're like, we've been trying to ban piracy, but there are still a lot of pirates. So it's a very singular, right? Like I always say singular because I feel like it only addresses one thing, which is just people can't access this stuff. And we were talking about power. So who are you putting the power to at this point? It's not the groups. It's not collective shout. I mean, yes, to a certain degree right now. Really, the power here is the payment processors. Because honestly, if there is one way to control any kind of capitalist entity, it's money. And how do you control money? Just don't let it get to them. And as a payment processor, and a lot of businesses use this, and Steam has been so adamant, about giving a platform of freedom for a lot of different creators, stuff like that, and they're doing their work on how they flag a lot of this stuff. Of course, there's still friction around it of how easy it is to find like a game that's too steamy versus safe for work, I guess, video games and stuff like that. But honestly, like, what do they have against what kind of leverage do companies like this have against the individual? It's just really like the only leverage they have is you aren't able to partake in the fun that they are providing for a fee, right? But not to defend smaller businesses on this, and not that Steam and itch.io is small, but you have even smaller indie developers, maybe one or two people, putting their passions in this game. And again, we'll go back to the idea, maybe this is not a horn game, maybe this is a game that deals with very mature themes to talk about, and to share with people, to make them think, like books, right? We have a lot of books that have a lot of sexual themes in nature, that have a lot of adult themes in nature, very graphic violence and stuff like that. History books are very graphic. Science books are very sexual in nature. Like, how do we even like make all of those categorizations if we just say, yo, I'm seeing a nipple, ban this? But again, it's the small businesses, the folks that are near to the normal consumer, not the big, corporations that have whatever thousands of lawyers who can freaking debate on what not safe for work is, by exposing a nipple, right? Like, damn. It's that is a problem because, again, for a consumer, your consequence is just, okay, I can't access this stuff. I paid for it, I can't access it. For the business, it's their entire life, right? Like, it's their job. It's the money they need to continue working this type of work that they know how to do. And the government doesn't help them, transition to a different, I don't know, career, a different, path. It's just like, yeah, this is not a good thing because a payment processing company decided it's not good, because a payment processing company was just pressured by a group without really getting into the details of like video game ethics, hiring more experts, having an actual like long critical discussion with more different types of bodies of expertise, like psychologists, religion, whatever. This is just basically from two groups with two honestly questionable agendas in the guise of very, very, very honorable objectives. So you take out the money, you take out the way they receive payment, and now you have indie developers who cannot even eat and continue on with their lives. So therefore, you are effectively really censoring not even the information, the type of messages that people want to share with other people. You are effectively really controlling lives of people, right? And I'm not saying banning is bad. What I'm saying is it's so vague that anyone who doesn't like anything can call that not safe for work. So, right? Like we were talking about movies. So, I haven't watched Superman, James Gunn's Superman yet, but I heard there was a lot of I guess like symbolisms maybe, or I guess what I'm trying to say here is that you could see that the movie is very obviously talking about very important issues, that's surrounding us right now, right? Like the debate between like Israel, Palestine, who is the right and who is wrong, whatever. All the political crap that we're all going through, and what's the truth, what's not, like, what's fair and what's, constitutional and what's not, etc. Do you say that that's not safe for work? Because some workplaces don't like politics. I mean, don't want to talk about politics. So are you going to brand that as not safe for work? Then now you're not going to have any kind of art or any kind of media that would, create a discussion or even discernment on individual people who consume it to make their own decisions about like what they think is right and wrong. And it's all media, right? Like there are articles now that have been taken down by the collective shout because of all of this stuff. There have been, posts of people or, political messages, or even just, I don't know, you could even ask a question online and say something like, is abortion bad? And if even that question is misconstrued as, hey, this person has 6 million followers and he's asking a question that might be a leading question, so we should ban that tweet rather than have an actual discussion around it. There are things that have to be banned from society. There are, and I agree with it. But those things have to be extensively studied, and what types of, damage it actually does to society. It's sad. This is all disguised as a force for good, right? And if you think about it, okay, so the payment processors, this is, I think, the toughest part about all of this. So, okay, fine. The payment processors are in control because they can say, all right, OnlyFans is a porn site, so nothing. But OnlyFans is popular as a porn site, but it can actually house other types of content. It's not just that, but you just had a sweeping ban, so even the people who follow suit would be affected by this blanket statement of, yeah, this umbrella is not safe for work, therefore, nope, you cannot be paid and you cannot use our services. Go somewhere else. The problem is, what is the somewhere else? Where is the somewhere else? These 6 payment processors could be the reason that the internet might not be free anymore. And we can talk about, like, what freedom is really and what censorship is, because, like, again, those things we have to talk about more and more. The problem with all of this is nuance. The problem with all of this is the lack of discernment and discussion about, like, what constitutes a violation, what constitutes dangerous, what constitutes safety, what constitutes what is a child, what is a woman, what is objectification, what is consent. No, we need more discussions around those. Laws are insanely long because they are defining them. And just coming from last thing I'm gonna say about this is I love talking about I love thinking about this a little bit more, or bringing this up with foreign friends of mine from the Philippines. We had a president that basically outlawed terrorism. Ooh, that's great. It's great. I mean, it's already outlawed, but somehow there was a new law that would outlaw it some more. But that law, the beauty is front facing and public facing. It's like, yeah, this is an iron hand and it's gonna protect us all. But when you read it, it's insanely vague that anyone can be a terrorist, because how it was portrayed and detailed and described, if you are a terrorist, I think it's just, at the end of the day, if you read all of that, it's just, if the government thinks you're a terrorist, then you're a terrorist. And here we are in a country living on the same land where extrajudicial killings have happened to what, thousands of families, 30,000 families or something like that. And did they violate anything? Were we sure? And they didn't even get tried. It's just, yeah, let's just kill them. Because there's no law to say you can't do that, Mr. President. Well, the only good thing right now is that Mr. President is in The Hague, waiting for his trial, because he is now on the International Criminal Court because of all the evidence with all of this stuff. Anyway, for y'all conservatives out there, that president was also the president that basically cursed the late Pope Francis on live television. Yeah. Last thing I'm gonna say. Yes, it's super important. We need more. We need nuance in all of these things. We absolutely need concrete definitions of what we should remove, what is dangerous, and what is not good for society. And maybe while we define it, we also check the sources of who's making those claims that something is bad or good. Especially, like, for example, from this group, the Collective Shout, that basically had an article in the Daily Telegraph that says women with big boobs are impossible. It's a real article the Daily Telegraph has published. So I don't know. So did she just undermine feminism by saying that a, a part of women with those kinds of bodies are not real. Yeah. Nuance, power, and boobs. I guess I'll see you next time. Think about it.